Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
This episode is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Didn't file with TurboTax last year? That's in the past. Now, Taxes is getting the TurboTax app and filing your own taxes for free if you didn't file with them last year. File by February 18th. All tax forms, all 100% free. Now, this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. New filers and filers who didn't use TurboTax last year only must start and file your own taxes in-app by February 18th. Excludes TurboTax Live. Full terms at TurboTax.com.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise podcast. We're going to talk about the Bears of Chicago and the Cubs, the baby Bears of Chicago, with Tom Loxas. Tom, how have you been?
Hey, good. I was going to say we've got not too much to talk about. So
no, which of these teams would? Well, one is doing things, and the other is just letting people rumor that they're going to do things. We'll see.
Yeah, they're very active in the bullpen market.
We'll start with the Bears. I don't know if you knew this because it was a factoid I just unearthed. Did you know that Thomas Brown was the first interim head coach in Bears history? Had you heard that?
I had.
Yeah, that's right. That's the last team to actually realize, you can fire these idiots during the season. We can? Really? We don't have to just keep them? And
yeah,
poor dumb Matt Eberflus is no more. Now, were you morally offended on his behalf that on Friday morning he had to attend a Zoom press conference with the media that lasted 9 minutes long, and then afterwards he was told he was fired?
I thought that was quintessential Bears. I mean, a lot of people said like they can't believe that they did that, but I totally knew that was going to happen. Especially when he said, "Well, he's like, I got a meeting with the Bobs later," and I was like, "Oh, yeah. You're fucked, man."
Honestly, if you had told me on Thanksgiving night that for sure the Bears were going to fire Eberflus, I would have figured they wouldn't get around to it till Tuesday.
Yeah, there were some rumors that they were going to wait till the weekend for some reason.
Yeah. So the fact that it took them till 9 minutes after 9 to finally call him in, that to me is progress. This is the Bears doing things about as well as they can possibly do them. And I found it really hard to feel bad for either Eberflus or the media that they had to do that. If you were the media, this was like, and they got to ask him the question, like, are you going to be the coach on Sunday? And he's like, well, I don't know. I think so. Which isn't a great answer. It's pretty much, I'm probably screwed.
I'm watching some San Francisco tape just in case.
Yeah. Oh, they can't fire me now. I've got the clicker. Nobody else can watch tape. I've got the clicker and I'm not giving it back. Matt, that's not how that works. What? I'm going to take home all the transparencies and the projector. Good luck getting ready for San Francisco without a grease marker. You can't do it. I've got them all.
It's taking all the hairspray too.
So there was one of the reasons they gave for why it took them until about 10 o'clock to fire him was they were meeting and they people were like, why didn't you meet earlier than that? And I honestly think it was It is not a short trip from Sycamore to Lake Forest. And there's no way that George knows how to like use the speaker function on his phone. So they had to wait for him to physically get to Hallis Hall so they could start talking. Thomas Brown, in the span of 18 days, went from passing game coordinator that apparently the offensive coordinator was taking his suggestions and just putting them in a drawer somewhere, to offensive coordinator, to head coach. A whirlwind. And he said something about, I'd like to thank George and Kevin and Ryan for this additional promotional opportunity. You didn't get a coupon, Thomas. They literally promoted you. Maybe they did. Maybe they handed him a coupon. You can use this to coach 5 games for the Bears.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking wild, man. Caleb barely said he knew the guy, and now he's his head coach.
Because apparently his role literally was just like to help with the game plan, and then that was it. And so like Waldron and Flus were the ones who talked to Caleb and the quarterback coach, Kerry Joseph. That's about it.
Yeah.
But when you hear him talk, and we only heard Waldron talk a few times, at least I did.
Yeah.
How did you hire the other guy?
Oh, exactly.
It's like the one is far more impressive than the other is. I really think it was only because Waldron had been the offensive coordinator in Seattle and Brown had been in like name only in Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, he's got more experience. That's great. I think Waldron's failing was his communication style more than anything.
Yeah. Well, his play calling wasn't great either, but the players really did not dig his vibe.
It just didn't connect with them. And you have to do that. And so I kind of wondered in Seattle, is it because that head coach, when he was there, Pete Carroll, is like Mr. Charisma, and he just made up for it? And then the Flus
that's possible.
Is like the anti-charisma. And him and Waldron together were just like this, these two white dorks that the team is looking at like
dry toasts.
Can you believe these two assholes are telling us what to do?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I just keep thinking about Hard Knocks because even when I was watching it, I was trying this year to like just have an open mind about Flus because I was like, all right, I got to give Poles the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he thinks now with a real quarterback and a real team, this guy's got to, going to turn it around. But watching him, talk to Caleb about quarterbacking in his office was just very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
I was just like, Caleb's got to be thinking, shut the fuck up. Yeah. But at the same time, it was like, I had to buy in at the time. But it was just really weird.
And it's not like the stuff Flus was telling him was wrong.
But
it just didn't
seem off like he was an authority, right?
Yeah. And I was hoping that was just the Flus, like, oh, there's cameras on me, and I'm going to try to be natural, and I can't.
Right.
But I just think that's him. I don't think it matters cameras or not. And that's an issue. And
I don't know. Do you think, like, I feel like he showed that he's, like, kind of, like, ignorantly arrogant. It's just like...
he refused to admit he had screwed anything up.
Yeah.
Like, after the Washington game. To then clearly got chewed out by Poles. To then basically taking the blame for everything. And when you take the blame for everything, you're not taking the blame for anything, right? Like, oh, that's my fault. Yeah, that's my fault. Sure, that's my fault. It's like, oh, I don't believe you. I think they've told you it's your fault. That when anything goes wrong, you have to take responsibility for it. And none of this comes across as genuine. It's just a weird thing. Because, like, he did fuck up the end of the Washington game. We all saw it. It wasn't just the Hail Mary, which was a disaster. It was the play before the Hail Mary. And then he wouldn't admit that they should have done that differently. Whereas just a normal human is like, well, shit, that didn't work. Here's why we did that, and we screwed that up. And that's on me. And people would accept that. But he was defiant. He was, no, that doesn't matter. Like, well, apparently it does. Because even with that extra 15 yards, Jaden still couldn't throw the ball to the end zone. Tyreek had to knock it into the end zone for him.
Oh. Quinn had come out the following day and said, hey, that was the key play, was the play before. And most of the analysts that you heard were all saying, yeah, that's just something you can't let happen. Tony Romo called it out in real time.
Drew it on the screen before it happened.
Exactly.
He's like, no, this is not the time for the Hail Mary. You got to throw one quick out. And he basically drew the exact route that McLaurin ran. Yeah.
And how is a defensive coach, defensive coordinator, you don't understand that? That's like...
Well, the most infuriating thing was they were in a similar spot at the end of the first half, and the Bears did play a defense. They took the defensive ends. They didn't rush. They dropped them into the flats to take away the quick out. And then at the end of the game, they didn't do it.
Weird.
I guess at the end of the first half, they're guarding against the field goal, and at the end of the game, they're guarding against the touchdown. I don't know. They didn't guard against anything. But anyway. He gets... Well, who knows how his contract... Well, no, Trace Armstrong is his agent, and the Bears will just do whatever Trace says. So, supposedly, the Flu's $9 million over the next 2 years. So, he gets to keep his fancy house, I guess, if he wants it. And
well, Wani was just on the score on my way home, and he was saying, you got to get out of town as soon as you get fired. He's like, you gotta get out of town.
I was hoping Wani would have got out of town while he was still coach. Maybe
I don't know. I think I've told you this before. I don't know why, but I just love Wani. And maybe it just comes down to at the time he was the hire.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, between the Bears and Giants, it was just like, he was the guy, the Cowboys were just everything. They were the Beatles back then. And just like when he looked and kind of sounded like Ditka, I was just like, oh my God, it's just like rolling in
Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Western Pennsylvania.
Big mustache.
Ditka. Yeah.
Came from the Cowboys.
Oh my gosh. Everything was perfect. He was defense, everything, His press conference was great. And I love the guy. And even at that point when they were 7-3 that one year, and I think that was the pieces are in place year, and he lost that tough game to Pittsburgh. He lost that team and they unraveled just like the Bears did against Washington. It's the same thing.
Wani should have been fired the year before he was fired. The Bears kept him an entire season too long, which I think is probably where this guy's a fucking moron. Like, I don't give him credit. Donahue and I talked about this. I remember this crap. There's only 3 Bear coaches ever that have won a road playoff game. George Halas, Mike Ditka, and Dave Wannstedt. That's it. There's only 3. There's also, our favorite factoid is that the last 2 Bears road playoff games were won by backup quarterbacks named Steve wearing number 4.
Wow.
So that's what it takes.
Wow.
So I was wondering if DeAndre Swift could change his name to Steve and play quarterback in a playoff game, and the Bears could win. But I don't think we have to worry about that.
No, I don't think they're going to get that chance.
But now we have Thomas
crazy
Jones.
Because I was thinking about this today. Like, I was really, if you look at this team, I mean, with good coaching, where do you think they would be? Like, how many more wins would you give them?
They should be 7-5, no matter what. I think could be 8-4, but 7-5 seems like
totally
how did you lose that? How did you lose the Washington game?
Green Bay.
The Packers. If they Matt Pryor to get himself thrown into the kicker, and they probably Cairo makes that field goal, and you win that game. And then I don't even think it's a crapshoot. Minnesota, they made the big comeback. They got into overtime and they lost. The Lions, they're gonna have to kick a field goal, and they may well have lost. But how the hell did you lose that game to the Patriots? How?
Yeah. And I could even make a case that was bad offensive plan that cost them the Colts game too. I mean, there's so many games on the table.
First and goal at the 1, and they didn't score. And if they score, they win.
Yeah.
So 8-4.
So
they should be.
Yeah, we're looking at this is a playoff team.
Yes, and that's why the Flus got fired. It's not like a coach with a bad football team made some bad decisions. This is a coach with a good football team made bad decisions, and they're losing because of his decisions. And you have to get him out there before the players kill him.
Yeah, because they knew. They were all talking too. DJ Moore.
So
Jalen Johnson.
I heard little Tommy Waddle talking about, and he didn't have specifics. So he basically said the Bears. If you remember the Monday after the Patriots lost, the Bears didn't make an announcement on what they were going to do till the very end of the day, till the end of Monday, and they fired Waldron and promoted Thomas Brown.
Right.
Somebody has to be either Ryan Poles or Kevin Warren. The reason it took so long wanted the Floos to go at the same time.
Oh.
And the other guy said no. And here's what I think happened. I think Warren wanted the Floos gone at the end of last season. And Poles said he's been here 2 years. The first year, I sabotaged his roster on purpose to rebuild. This last year, we won 5 of the last 8 games. He's finally getting it together. We owe him a season. Which, and at the time was like, do we? And now it's like, holy shit, that was terrible. And so the feeling that Waddle had was that the other guy, in my scenario, this is Poles basically saying he's got to go. He's lost the locker room. And Warren going, no, you said I wanted to get rid of him last year. We're stuck with him. He's going to have to learn how to make this work. And then it got worse, not better. And they finally pulled the trigger.
Yeah, I missed that. I didn't hear that, but that is definitely plausible. And I feel like George is probably in there somewhere too, though. Because A, they didn't want to eat the money, and B, that's just not their style. But
I would say George. Look, maybe it was. I just don't feel like. I feel like George cannot stand up to Kevin Warren. I feel like that's a personality mismatch. And my evidence for that is, what did they hire Kevin Warren to do? To build a stadium in Arlington Heights. And Kevin doesn't want to do it. And they're not building a stadium in Arlington Heights yet. He's basically stiff-arming the entire McCaskey family. Saying, oh, no, we can get one on the lakefront. I promise you. So what I don't see is Poles and Warren going to George. He's got to go. And George being like, no, we're the Bears. We don't fire coaches in season. I don't see him being able to withstand that if Kevin really wanted Floos gone. I feel he just wears him down with that, that guy can talk. He talked for the first 8 minutes of the press conference uninterrupted. There's no way George can stand there and eventually he's like, okay, you're right. Fine. Do what you want. So that's what I think. The irony is, I think if they had fired the Floos after the Patriots game, Thomas Brown is not going to be the interim coach. Right? You're not taking the passing game coordinator and making him the coach. So he would have become the offensive coordinator, which he did. And who's the head coach then? The special teams coach? Richard Hightower?
I think that was probably the most likely thing. Although Washington probably could do it.
Yeah, but I kind of
then he'd have to call defense.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder if they're like, well, and I feel like this, after the special teams disasters, this time, how would fans have reacted if they made Richard Hightower the coach?
Why not?
Oh, the guy who gets all our field goals blocked and who has the punt returner run into a punt? Yeah. Sure, that guy. Plus, I think Brown, as the offensive coordinator and then dealing with the media, and Caleb had success, it made it easier for them. They actually finally had a guy they could make the coach that was realistic. And around the league, people are like, oh yeah, Thomas Brown, sure. I mean, he's very well respected around the league.
Yeah, I was aware that he had been interviewed for the head coaching job in several spots. So, I mean, it speaks highly of him. And at the same time, yeah, McVay had him as his assistant head coach. Yeah, I would trust Sean McVay's judgment on those things. But getting back to what you were saying about Warren, how do you feel about that? Because I kind of dig it. It's like, no matter what, anything that is contrary to what George's normal instincts are, just like George Costanza, I'm good with somebody else fucking up his whole, thing. So if Warren is, that figure that he can't really say no to, then this might be interesting, because I do agree with you on this. I do feel like the only reason why they fired a coach in midseason is because of Warren's presence.
Yes,
there's no way they would have done it otherwise.
I think in the old way, without him there, Poles goes to George, says it's got to happen. George is like, that's not how we do things.
Son, we're going to wait till the end of the season.
And if I'm Poles, I grab George gently by the arm and go, let's go for a walk. And we walk by the trophy case. And you point at the one Super Bowl trophy that's, that you have to polish on a daily basis to keep it from turning brown. And I go, maybe it's time to do things differently. So here's my hope about having Kevin Warren involved in the search this time. Because if you remember last time, he wasn't there. They didn't have him yet. They didn't have anybody. They Bill Polian picked the Bears coach.
Yeah.
They hired Poles and said, here's your 3 finalists. Pick one. Or the way I joked on Tuesday, you can hire any coach you want as long as it's one of these 3. And it was the Flus, Jim Caldwell, and Dan Quinn. And Dan Quinn already had 1 foot back in Dallas. He was basically deciding he was going to go back and run. He thought he was going to the Super Bowl the next year with the Cowboys. And he was going to wait for a better... and the people were like, why? But they had the quarterback. Yeah, but it's a lot different than having Justin Fields and having Caleb Williams. There were a lot of teams. We saw that a year later when the Bears tried to trade Justin. And the league was like, we're good. My hope with Kevin, having him there this time, is that because he's like Mr. Like I said, he's with delusions of grandeur, he's going to make them reach out to coaches that they wouldn't normally go after.
Totally.
Like, this is the dude who one day woke up and thought, it'd be cool in the Big Ten. What if we had USC and UCLA? And maybe the worst thing that ever happened to him, or not to him, but to the sports, was it worked.
Yeah.
And now he thinks that's why he thinks he can basically will a stadium on the lakefront.
Yeah.
He's like, I got them to leave the Pac-12. I can do anything. This will be fine. But like I also said on Tuesday, I also fear that he could screw anything up. Like, they could actually get a really good candidate interested, and that dude spends some time with Kevin and is like, no, I don't I don't want to do this. How much will I be interacting with you? Oh, that's way too much. I can't do that.
Let's get up at 4:30 and wash my car.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I think you're right. I think that he's going to swing bigger than they normally would. And I think that I think it was written all over Poles' face. Speaking from somebody who doesn't hide his emotions too well, Poles really looked like a petulant child at that press conference. He was not happy with the way Warren was big timing him. I mean, maybe there's other things, but that's the way I took it.
I described
Warren's
it as
Kevin's going to have the choice, but it's going to be me.
I heard about the press conference before I saw the press conference. And I saw John Greenberg tweeted out, Bear fans, if you thought you were going to feel better about things with this press conference, you don't. And I'm watching it, and I had 2 immediate impressions. The first one was, I'm like, I think this is going actually pretty well. Until the question about who's going to make the final decision. And it took Warren like 3 minutes to say Poles. But the other one was, I felt like when the cameras first come on and they're sitting they bring out the desk for this. This is serious. We got the desk. And Poles looked like somebody he had just had to put his dog down. And Warren is like, hey, look, cameras. He's like a game show host. He's so excited. Like, they're paying it. You have to listen to me. I miss this so much. And I kind of wondered if Poles had I fired the coach. I have to look very serious. I fired, we failed. We had to fire our coach. I have to look very serious.
Could be part of it.
And Warren wanted none of that. He could give a shit about that. Yeah. He was like, this is going to be great. Look what I get to do now.
We're going to get a real coach this time, guys. Yeah, I don't think, and that's the only reason why I think Thomas Brown, regardless of how he may really put his name in the hat with a good finish here, but I really feel like Warren's thinking bigger. I just don't think that he's going to settle for something like that.
Oh, I think otherwise previous regimes, he'd be the heavy favorite to keep the job.
Absolutely.
Unless they, not only, say they went 0-5, he'd probably still have a chance, but they'd have to go 0-5 and lose every game by like 30 points. The Bears would cling to any kind of Caleb played well, or the guys really responded. We just had a tough skip, but whatever. I don't know what he'd have to do to make Warren feel like, that's our guy. Brown would have to do something the team is incapable of doing, like go 4-1, and they just can't do it.
No,
they're not as bad as their record, but they're not good enough to do that at the end of the season. They're just not.
No. And I think that most of the vets, most of them, DJ Moore, Jalen Johnson, Keenan Allen, whoever you want to name, they would have to tell Warren or Poles, this is the guy, absolutely 100%. And even then, I still don't know. But I do think Brown's qualified, and I do think he's going to have a good showing. But I think that Warren is looking at this as more of like, let's put the Bears back on the map with the big hire, and quit this bullshit that he saw like with Eberflus. That was rough. That was very that gave Trestman a run for his money, you know.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
They were Hoga Johns were talking about it this week about why Trestman didn't get fired. And one of their theories was who his coordinators were. Mel Tucker, who the defense hated. Like they just and Aaron Kromer, who had already had the thing with Cutler.
Oh man, that was bad.
They didn't have anybody to give the job to. They just kind of had to eat it and just go down in flames with Trestman.
Damn, yeah.
But I also don't think Phil Emery. Well, the Bears knew they were firing Emery too, and they just weren't going to do it. They were just you guys try not to lose every game by 40 points the rest of the way, and they kind of almost did.
Oh, that was rough.
Yeah, they gave up 50, had a bye, gave up 50 again. That's not great.
Yeah, in some ways this is better because you know the team is actually primed and ready to win. But in some ways it also sucks more because you know that it was wasteful. Yeah. And it could have been avoided.
Well, and honestly, if they had made the change 3 games ago, they're still in the playoff hunt most likely. Because nobody on that staff would have done what he did. So I don't think. Maybe he hired some of them. So who knows?
Well, again, I don't know whose fault it was because we'll never really know like what Poles really wanted to do in the offseason. But right now, for me, it's on him. And I feel like this is reflecting really poorly on him, you know, not only from me, but from other people, you know, in the league. I think that you got to question someone's judgment to put your star, you know, prize number 1 draft pick in this guy's hands if you thought that there was any chance that this was going to happen, because this is exactly the kind of shit but Colin Cowherd was talking about that Caleb would want to avoid. And I think if Caleb had a crystal ball and could see this happening, he may have tried to strong arm his way out of this, because this is bad.
It's funny though. Think about how well he's handled this.
Oh,
like for this guy who was supposed to be this prima donna quarterback or whatever, he's put up with this shit and he just keeps playing. Like he continues to get better. Like it really reflects well on him that he has been able to navigate this. I mean, being a rookie quarterback is hard enough, and then you have these idiots. And for Poles, it's bad enough to like bringing the Flus back for another year was defensible, right? But with the idea that you were going to get a real offensive coordinator, and then you fuck that hiring up on top of it, and that's really where But I watched the end of the Detroit game in complete bemusement as the time was ticking off. Just like, they're not going to do anything. Eberflus is standing there. You know, a side judge stands right next to the head coach the entire time. All he has to do is mutter timeout, and you get a timeout. And he just stood there. And the way he stood there after the game ended, like still just staring, like, is it over? It's like, oh yeah, that
was perfect. It really was. I mean, at the moment, you know, it's like you're conflicted because you want that to not happen. You want them to win that game. But as soon as it happened and it was over, I'm like, oh, that's it. He's totally gone.
Yeah. They can't bring him
he just completely fucking punched his ticket. So it was really the greatest thing ever, you know, for them at this time, because just to get him out of that locker room and give them a head start on getting the right guy. It was a blessing. It just sucks because, like we said, it's just a wasted season. But Caleb, I think, like you said, he's making the complete most out of it. And I think he's just realizing that he is growing regardless of the situation. And I think he's in a good place with Thomas Brown anyway. So I think that, the rest of the season, I think he's going to keep progressing.
Yeah. Yeah,
we
didn't
talked
talk
about it. Doesn't matter if they made the playoffs or not.
No.
You and I agreed. The main thing is make sure that the arrow's pointing up, and then this kid is gonna, keep progressing. And that, I think, at the end of the day, that's really all we're gonna care about.
I'm not concerned about. Oh, I can't. What if he has to learn another offense next year? Fine, this one's not good. Learn a good one. That's fine. What if he has to get used to a new head coach? Fine. Caleb is not this fragile little thing that this is gonna. It's like, just get it right, and then go.
No, he's a pro.
Don't be like, oh, we can't make this is too much change. We'll have to keep some of this shit. No, none of this works. Throw it all out and do it again until you get it right. And then, because right now, if you're the Bears, what you're concerned about is, are we going to be good enough after year 5 that he's going to stay?
Right.
That's honestly what you're worried about. It's like, you've got time right now, but you can piss that time away pretty fast. And if it's like, oh no, we're just going to keep Thomas Brown because we're going to run the same offense, and then you're just not that good next year, and whatever. It's like, no, you just get it right as quickly as you can, and then move on. And we'll see. But
well, I was thinking about, with Warren talking the way that he is, and the leader of men, and giving you the indication that it's going to be a big personality, or at least somebody that's more or less a guy that can command a locker room. I don't think that Cliff Kingsbury thing's going to happen. I don't think that guy showed that he could control a locker room in Arizona.
No, and especially the reason when I said that, it wasn't like I want this to happen. I'm like, this is a very Bears thing. And one of the reasons I like the fact that Warren is like, is delusional. Is that he's not going to consider that. It's like, no, we're not doing that. We're going bigger than that. I mean, I wouldn't go Bill Belichick, because I'm not bringing in a 72-year-old guy who's going to want to redo everything. Plus, him and the girlfriend they're going on their tour of the ACC right now. He's off in North Carolina interviewing for the job down there, and she's checking out sororities. It's going to be fine.
That'll be a very chill situation for him.
I also am a little concerned about everybody's next highest candidate is Ben Johnson.
Okay.
And Ben seems to me like a weirdo.
He does.
Like, when you look at him on the sidelines, he looks like a guy that the players, when he's the head coach, would look at like, I've got another one of these. Like, he's smart. He runs a really cool, fun offense. He also runs one. I think I could run a pretty cool offense with the Lions, considering that no one can rush the passer against them, because they actually went out and built a real line. I don't know. Maybe he could be that, maybe he really has just been super selective and he's looking for the right fit, and he'll be great. I don't know. But I don't know. He looks like a villain in a frat movie from the 80s. And I look at the Bears and I'm like, dude, is this what we want to go from? We're going from the like overmatched dean of students in the movie now to like the student council president. And it's like, can we just get off of this? Can we just go hire a guy who looks? How about Ditka? We found out he's not in hospice. That way, the family announced that he's not in hospice, so I think he's ready for a comeback. Bring back Ditka; it'll be fine.
All right, let's think about this for a second. Like, how many of the hot coordinators have ever gone on to be a great coach? And I'm not questioning it. I'm actually just like really starting to think about this for a second. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, considering they all get jobs, then every great coach. Every good coach of recent years was probably a hot coordinator sometime. But the number that flame out is
no. I guess I meant offensive guys. Now, granted, like, okay, now McVay and Shanahan definitely would qualify, but McVay also wasn't he the like an established coach? Coordinator, right? Exactly. He wasn't like. But like
everybody on the staff was like, "Hold, this dude knows everything," and that's why he moved up so fast. Like everybody on the Commanders was like, yeah, we've got a lot of smart coaches. Right. This guy right here is by far the smartest. Yeah.
Right. And I was going to say, the difference with him is that he is obviously a guy that can command a locker room. Like, yes, he looks like a coach.
With players.
100%. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Shanahan, I would agree with too, but Shanahan also had more of a precarious route. He wasn't like hot for like a year or two like Ben Johnson and just got a job. Like, he had bounced around a little bit, and had success. But he wasn't like a top-notch candidate right away. But regardless, I mean, again, he's got the chop. I mean, he's got it in his genes with his dad. I mean, so I wouldn't be surprised that guy was a great coach either way.
Yeah,
all right, so give me your top three. Give me your top three guys that you think either are going to get the job or that you'd like.
Or are you saying, and people can't see you, but I could. It seemed like you didn't take my Ditka suggestion seriously. So we're not considering Mike Ditka. How about Mike Ditka
fun,
Jr.?
I would like.
Is there a Mike Ditka Jr.? I think there is. Bring him in.
Mini Ditka?
Mini Ditka. How old is Mini Ditka? He could probably still hack it.
Mini Ditka is in hospice, though. I'm afraid to tell you. He just, doesn't look good.
What about Mark Trestman? Can we bring him back? Pair him with the good quarterback around this time? Yeah, isn't he? He's on Harbaugh's staff with.
That's right.
With the Chargers. So Harbaugh's love him. John hired him to be his offensive coordinator after the Bears fired him. Then he had to fire him. Jim brought him in. Be great. How about Jim Harbaugh? How about can we go get Jim Harbaugh? That's an idea. I still think I know he's a good coach, but I knew he was a good coach last year. And I didn't want him because he's so strange and he burns out so fast.
Oh,
I don't want. He got to be able. There's other guys, other coaches. He's never won a Super Bowl. Every Super Bowl's been won by somebody who's in Jim Harbaugh. There's somebody out there you could hire instead.
Most of these guys, even if they're good, they're weirdos, So I think Vrabel's a weirdo.
Coaches. They're football coaches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Vrabel brings the
weirdo.
whole Diana Rossini had that report last year. Some of the owners are afraid of him when they meet with him.
Oh yeah,
he's so big and intense.
Oh God, yeah.
What if you got? How about this? How about Mike Vrabel and he keeps Thomas Brown as the offensive coordinator? The best of both worlds.
I wouldn't hate it,
I could see the Bears doing something like that
on the surface. Yeah, I could see that happening.
I would have Vrabel. I would bring Vrabel and I would talk to him. Although those Belichick coaches have such massive success after they leave him.
Yeah,
and Ben Johnson's got to be on there. You can't argue
Johnson.
with if you look at the Lions offense and you put Caleb in there instead of Jared Goff, and it's holy shit, they'd score 50 points a game. It's
but like you said though, that offensive line has a lot to do with it.
Yes, it does.
I'm afraid
can
to tell
Sewell
you.
come with?
Yeah.
Can he bring? Can we trade Sewells?
God,
they can have Noah. They can have Noah, and we'll take Panay, and maybe they won't notice. They gotta look something alike, right? They're brothers.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about this before, but that's the other thing about Poles that I just always. Again, he built a good roster. I like some of the talent on this roster. A lot of speed, good young core. But come on, man, you don't know how to. You got to build a line on either side first, and the only good lineman he has basically he traded for, and Sweat. It's it's decent. Yeah. Let's not. I'm not getting carried away here.
Well, because of Montez, they have really good players at every position group except for offensive line.
Yeah,
the position that the GM and the assistant GM played. Maybe they need to stop signing guys that remind them of them.
Yeah,
considering neither one of them could hack it in the NFL. That's by far the biggest failing. This is a good roster with a bad offensive line.
Yeah, if you put at least one stud on that offensive line, like they say, it's a big multiplier. It makes everybody look better. I think. Why can't I think of the right tackle's name when they drafted?
Oh, Darnell Wright.
Yeah, I think he's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be really good. But yeah, you got to have a better left tackle, and that'll just make everything look better.
You saw the difference when he was out. Larry Borum's in, and Larry's like, "Oh shit, should I have blocked that guy?" I felt like Darnell struggled early in the year. Because who was playing guard early in the year? Davis was hurt and Bates was hurt. Before they plugged Pryor in,
Bill Murray.
I honestly felt like Darnell was trying to block his guy and then cover for the guard, and he struggled early in the year. And he's been okay since. The other thing, the offensive line has not been great, but it's funny how the Bears have had far fewer protection problems the last 3 weeks. It's almost like if you call different plays, ones that actually play to the strengths of your offensive line, you can actually function as an offense. Didn't Caleb got sacked 16 times in the last 2 Shane Waldron games, right?
Yeah.
And he's been sacked 6 times total in the last 3 games. I mean, it's a big difference.
Yeah. And plus,
Get rid of
Brown
the ball.
knows that he's got to get rid of the ball, right?
Get rid of
That's
the
it.
ball quicker. This line cannot protect that long. Don't ask them to do it. It's not that, You'd love to have a line where you could run 7-step dropbacks all the time and chuck it down the field like Jared Goff does. You don't have that, so you can't call those plays. Sorry.
Right. But if you ask me what are the two biggest needs, I would say left tackle and nose tackle. So it's it's still building the inside out. And Belichick was critical of polls on the Manning cast about that.
And he's right.
He just It
is funny. I heard somebody talking about how, Belichick, he just rips Caleb. But here's what he does. When Belichick talks about quarterbacks, he rips quarterbacks. Like, he doesn't say nice things about quarterbacks. It's not like he's talking about how great everybody else is, and then he's picking on Caleb. There's things about Jaden Daniels that he doesn't like. There are things about like veteran quarterbacks that he doesn't like. He's not going to rip Mahomes or Josh Allen, but there's, other than the elites, he's a coach. He's critical, and it all falls back to, here are the things they should do they're not doing on almost every player. So if you're going to be super sensitive and be like, oh, he doesn't like Caleb, it's like, no, he's Coach Belichick right now saying he needs to do this and he needs to do this and he needs to do this, which is just
and
his
he's
default.
right. Yeah. I didn't think he was ripping on him too hard. And at the same time, like, I'm sure Bill would be happy to take him.
Yeah, I think he probably would.
Yeah. You saw the way Shanahan gushed about him, so.
Well, we'll see.
Right, do we have to talk some Cubs or what?
Yeah. The Cubs, who are super active so far in the offseason, signing elite players like Eli Morgan and Matt. Is it Tice? Is that how you pronounce Thaiss?
I have no idea who that guy is.
Is it bad that he's been in the league for like 5 years and I have no idea how to say his name? And of course, Matthew Boyd, who if you need 37 innings out of a starting pitcher and you need good ones, that's the guy to sign. Way to go, Jed. You fixed it all. Go home. Take the rest of the offseason off. Congratulations, you fixed it.
Hey, look, if Jed was operating like a real GM and he has a good offseason and you add a guy like Boyd to throw into the mix, that's actually a guy that has some really good upside.
Right. The Boyd signing is fine.
Right now it looks pretty flimsy.
It's supposed to be paired with like you get Boyd and you get like a guy who's proven he's actually durable to go in the rotation too. You don't just it's not just him. And that's the problem we have. We can only judge the offseason on what they've actually done so far. And that's not a lot. A reliever who throws 78 miles an hour and a starting pitcher who hasn't thrown 100 innings since before the pandemic.
Jed has
the pandemic's been a while now. It's since the Trump administration won.
Jed has not gotten the memo about the trend going towards hard-throwing bullpen guys. He's like, what?
No, 78
how about this,
guys? If everybody has guys who throw hard, guys get used to that. And then they come play us, and we're going to be up there. There's no way they can hit him. They'll be swinging 3 times before the ball gets home. You saw those Bugs Bunny cartoons? It's Bugs Bunny pitching staff. It's going to be great. There are actual trade rumors, and I don't know how the veracity of any of them. Some of them come from Bruce Levine, so who knows? But somebody wants you to know, probably the White Sox, that the Cubs are very interested in Garrett Crochet. What would you give up for a Garrett Crochet?
Without, let's just say that we know he's healthy because we don't know the medicals.
Right.
But if he's healthy, I think it's probably going to take some kind of combination of either Cade Horton, Owen Casey, and probably Triantos.
You're going to give
some type of.
You're going to trade 3 Hall of Famers. 3 Hall of Famers for him?
No, they're not going to trade all 3 of those guys, but 2 of those would probably be a headline, and they probably have to throw in like Wicks. That might get
Rowan?
It done.
Oh, no.
Although I don't...
Who was the other guy? Who was our other... We had 2 Wicks. Who was the other guy? Who was the big, tall guy who never couldn't pitch ever? What he did, he was good.
The bad one? Yeah, I forgot his name.
Had his heart exploded, and then I don't know what.
Oh, jeez.
I
feel like teams do I did text with my friend. It's a former scout. He does like Casey though. He does think that he's going to be a legit corner outfielder. So
Okay.
he can see him, bringing back something in a trade, but he also thinks that he could play right field like next year. So it's like I'd be willing to do it though, because they've got to take a chance. They've got to make a move like that. They've got to do something that's exciting. I'm willing to close my eyes and hope that Crochet stays healthy, because what's the knock on him? That he may not stay healthy, or he might only throw 5 innings. Isn't that like what a starter does these days anyway?
It was fine for Matthew Boyd.
Yeah.
He's your Garrett Crochet backup, Matthew Boyd. Between the two of them, we can get 75 innings. It'll be great.
But how do you feel about Crochet? Because if he's good, that rotation looks pretty decent.
It's funny. He was really good. What did he get? He got shit last year for basically saying if he got traded to a contender, he wanted an extension, right?
Yeah.
And the reason for that was he'd never pitched this many innings before. You get traded to a contender, they're just going to pitch your ass off through the playoffs,
right?
And then he wore out and he was bad after that. And I think it was probably him going, Jesus, my arm is already throbbing from throwing this many innings. Just trade me to the Dodgers and I'm just going to suck.
Oh, the Dodgers. Yeah, they would just destroy you.
Yes, because the Dodgers, they don't care about their own pitchers, much less somebody they just picked up from somebody. They still have Jack Flaherty still warming up. The World Series been over for a month and Jack Flaherty's still in the bullpen warming up just in case. I like him. He's a nice player, and it'd be nice to. It could be like I just can't wait for him to get a big strikeout against the White Sox, and for Boog to get to yell, "Thanks, White Sox."
Boy,
the sad Jason Benetti thanks Cubs for the Eloy home run. I remember the great career Eloy had for your club over there, Jason. Congratulations. Oh, he's left too, so he doesn't give a shit. As long as you don't trade Matt Shaw.
I'm not trading
Matt Shaw.
I don't think they are either. I think they're going to trade Nico Hoerner. I think he's going to get moved, and I think Cody's going to get moved. It sounds like there are teams actually very interested in Cody.
Mariners might take both of them.
Yeah, let's do it.
You get Brian Woo if you do that.
I would be excited about that.
Yeah, I like Brian Woo.
You, that kid is really good.
Well, and then if you get Brian Woo, then you can hoard all your prospects because you don't need to get Garrett Crochet anymore.
No, you don't.
That'll be great.
No,
that'll work. Nico to me he's a nice player. I like Nico. But if you traded him, I think I'd get over the loss in about 8 minutes. So it would be
totally fun. Yeah. And I think between Shaw and Triantos, if they were to keep him, they're going to be just fine in that position. So I think Nico's gone.
Yeah.
I think they've got to shake this lineup up.
I caution a team that trades for Nico, don't move him back to shortstop.
No.
I just feel
he is a fantastic
baseman. The arm was a little suspect when he played there the first time, and now it's got a big scar on it. So maybe he's an excellent second baseman. Defensive second base is much more valuable than it ever had been before because of the shift. Just play him there. You'll love him. He'll be great. And then he's really good at getting 20 singles a month. So enjoy those. Spread out over 20 games.
I think my dog is tearing up a box as we speak here.
Oh, good. Then there is the there's Cody rumored in multiple places, including the Astros. He's going to fix the Astros offense for him. That would be good. My only problem with the Cody trade is if they don't bundle him with another player, I feel like all they're doing is it's just going to be a salary dump. They're not getting anything. They're not going to get anything back of value.
No, that's it. I mean, it depends on whether you want.
You're just going to make the offense worse and save Tom Ricketts some money. I'm not in the mood for that. Keep him unless you get somebody.
The only way that I'm okay with trading Cody is if you have a plan to go get another bat. So, or a stud, in the rotation, which Crochet has the potential to be that. So if their plan is to do that, I'd be okay with that. but I'd still like to see them add another bat, and I think that they might. But I still think everything's going to come by trade. I don't think they're going to. The only money I think they're going to spend in free agency would be in the bullpen.
Yeah, and it's not going to be like it's going to be set up man money, not closer money.
Yeah, although I did hear that they were sniffing around Fairbanks from the Rays, and I've always liked him. I think that he's a guy that is solid. I mean, he's not. Yeah, I mean, and he throws hard, and you get a guy like that in the ninth inning, then it makes me feel a lot better, because I think last year, if they would have had a really good closer, I think we would probably be an 86, 87 win team.
And he's a great quote too. People who listen to the end of people who listen to the end of the baseball podcast, if they hear the player go on about the rant about trying to describe just how he sucked and like he goes, I wouldn't call it. It was like an all-encompassing suck. He goes on for like 30 seconds. That's Pete Fairbanks. I clipped that, and that goes on the end of the baseball podcast because he would be fun no matter what.
No, I thought it generally sucked. I didn't think it was a specific suck. I thought it was like an all-encompassing type of suck. So, we're going to try and rectify that. But for right now, I'm going to be pretty pissed about it.
One guy one team though you have to look out for is the A's are just spending money willy-nilly.
Oh yeah.
They signed Luis Severino for $60 million. It's the biggest contract they've ever given.
That was really sad. That was really sad when I saw that today.
Well, they've got that West Sacramento money now, though.
Yeah.
Did you know they're not even in Sacramento? They're in West Sacramento. That's where the minor league stadium is. I didn't know there was
a West Sacramento.
It'd be like, well, we're moving to Dubuque. Well, actually, we're moving to East Dubuque. Not even the good Dubuque. We're in the other Dubuque on the other side of the river. This is West Sacramento, not Sacramento. Yeah. That's going to be fun. You're going to have two teams playing in minor league stadiums.
I was going to say, yeah.
Baseball's doing great. That's wonderful.
We always vacation in the St. Pete area, and that stadium was hideous. But man, for them to be going into that minor league stadium, the Yankees at the Yankees complex, that actually be an upgrade from that Tropicana Dome.
The facilities there are, well, as you'd expect to see Yankees, they're really nice. Like the players,
I bet,
are going to love the upgrade.
Yeah, it's sad to say, but it's going to be an upgrade.
Florida State League Stadium. And they're like, oh, this is so much nicer than the one we're used to. This is great.
But that shit's going to be hot in July and August.
Well, apparently there's a turf field in West Sacramento, and the Player Association said no. So they're tearing it up and they're putting grass in for the however many years. Let's face it, the 10 years that the A's are going to be there. And part of it, they said, is that the reason you think, well, it's Northern California, right? It's, cool and whatever. And they said they play so many night games there because it's so freaking hot in the summer there. And they day games on the turf were like brutal. And so they're like, nope, you're going to have to put grass in. So they tore it up and they had to put grass in for the A's.
That's smart.
There is a rumor, according to our buddy Michael Cerami from Bleacher Nation, the Cubs are interested in bringing back Andrew Chafin.
Oh, okay. I'm okay. I
think it's because Obvious Shirt still has some failed starter stock.
Yeah.
That they need to move. So they're just going to at least bring him to spring training so we can sell it. And then once we run out, you can cut him.
I mean, we got to have some kitschy guys because, Wisdom's gone now and Talkman. It's like, what the fuck are we going to, what are all the bloggers going to romance over? No more Summer of Talkman.
Can you assure
Wisdom?
I need someone to ease my fears here. Can you assure me that if the Cubs trade Nico Hoerner, that they won't immediately run out and re-sign Nick Madrigal?
No, I think you might see David Bodie. David Bodie might be a candidate.
I'd take Bodie back before I would take little Nick.
That's for sure. But I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night one night and just be like, no, because I just feel like even though those guys are gone, I feel like they're going to come back somehow.
Well, they're not. Who's going to sign them? Who's going to sign
Patrick Wisdom? Those guys will just never leave.
They're going to be sitting out there.
David Bodie was here like from the Dallas Green era, isn't he? It's like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, speaking of that,
it was him and Tom Verizon.
Do you think if John Vukovic had been alive, do you think the Bears would have made him the interim football coach? Wasn't he interim Cub manager twice?
Yeah, and the
once for one day or something because the other guy couldn't make it in. It's just the weirdest thing. He was always rumored to be a manager, and then twice the Cubs let him like stand on this top step for like a week, and then it was like, no, that's enough. You got to go. It's like, what? Come on, man.
I have to tell you a story. We went to, I don't know if you remember this, but the Cubs used to have like back in the 80s, they had these Cubs clinics like for the kids. And it was on the field, and it was like Bobby Dernier and Rick Sutcliffe and Larry Boa, and they basically like had all us little kids on the field, like little leaguers, like giving us tips. And I remember some of the tips, like Bob Dernier taught me how to like catch the ball and make sure that the ball was in front of you so you could throw with your right hand. And Rick Sutcliffe was telling us all about like how you had to get good grades and stuff so you could be a smart pitcher.
I'm sure. And
then John Vukovic is on the field, and he starts swearing about the Padres because some kid brought up the Padres, like, "Oh, those fuckers," or something. It was just so funny because Rick Sutcliffe's mouth was like wide open. He's like, "These are like 8-year-old kids."
Well, I might very well have been at this. I might very well have been at the same one you were, because I was at one, and Ryan Sandberg showed me how to field a ground ball, and those were great.
Yeah, I think that was
John Vukovic, interim manager twice, but once for the Cubs, once for the Phillies. Grand total, he got to do 2 games for the Cubs in 1986. So was he? That's what I was thinking of. He was interim until they could drag, until they could get Gene Michael into town.
God. And the worst thing, I was like a little kid at that time, and I remember hearing Dallas Green said that he pulled Gene Michael out of the American League. What was it called? The Green Book back then? He said he was researching managers out of the green or the Red Book. I forget what they called it.
Yeah.
And I'm
each league.
Please don't tell me that shit. You're really saying that out loud.
He was only 38
I thought
years
Dallas
old.
Green was just shit back then.
Yeah. We all did. He was only 38 when he managed the Cubs, and then 2 years later, he got to manage 9 games for the Phillies. And then that was it. He never got to do it again.
Well, if you remember, Dallas Green
do you
quit.
know who he replaced with the 88 Phillies?
No.
Lee Elia.
Oh, wow. That's some full circle shit right there. Yeah. Well, do you remember Dallas Green, basically part of the reason he quit was because they wanted him to go manage, and he wanted Vukovic to manage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We got some well-run teams in this town. That's great.
Yeah, this is only in Chicago, man. It's crazy.
So the winter meetings are in Dallas, we decided. And there are rumblings that Juan Soto may actually sign before Sunday, which then would just create a free agent frenzy at the winter meetings. Of course, remember, the expectation was that when Shohei signed last year, it would be a free agent frenzy, and it didn't happen.
No, it did not.
But I think it would.
And baseball,
it would certainly loosen some things up, I think.
Yeah.
And that the Cubs' big expectation is that one of those teams who was so crushed by losing out on Juan Soto is going to immediately gaze at Cody Bellinger and be like, we have to have him. He's our Juan Soto replacement. We had Juan penciled in, and now we had to erase it, and we're just going to go get Cody. And Jed, what do you want? You can have anything, because we need him so bad. And Jed's like, how about 2 Class A pitchers, and you take all of his money?
Yeah, and I think that's what Jed is hoping for.
I mean, the biggest problem with trading Cody, just to save money, is he's owed at least $32.5 million for this year.
Right. Because
he's $27.5 plus a $5 million buyout. But it's just as likely, maybe even a little bit more likely, that he's actually owed $52.5 million because his contract for next year, which he can opt into, or he just doesn't opt out of, is $25 million. So some teams who may have been interested in Cody at 27 are maybe not so interested in him at the possibility of 52. Yeah. Now, the Cubs could alleviate that by basically saying, here, we will give you some money to offset that. But I believe their entire goal is to get rid of all of it. And if that means they don't get players back that are worth a damn, they don't really mind.
Yeah, it's either going to be, I think my prediction is either going to be they're going to take a player back that has some decent money left on his deal, or they're going to just kick in a little bit of money and get a couple like really low ball, really low profile prospects.
That's what I think they're going to do.
Yeah. But there was one, the guy, the assistant GM, whatever you want to call him, burner account on Twitter. He was saying that he and Gausman are a good match. Like if you were to, swap those contracts. So, and that would give the Cubs another starter. I could see that. But at the same time, I really wish they could get creative and find a way to get, another bat. But we'll see.
I wish they'd just act like a real major market big league team.
Yeah. But
God
I'm
forbid,
just
why would they want to do that? So we're stuck trying to come up with. We can't do it the way we want to do it. We have to look through it through the lens of what will the Cubs actually do. Well, Gausman, Jed's going to look at it and go no, because their salaries do match up. But for Gausman, it's $23 million this year and $23 million next year guaranteed.
Okay.
Where Cody, there's the option that maybe he would leave.
Yeah, but like you said, it's probably going to happen. So it could be, if you're just wanting to improve your rotation, then that's actually a good way to look at it. But I don't think Jed wants to do that. I think he'd rather. I'd rather trade Cody and get somebody to take on most of the money, and then trade from the prospects, because the bottom line is there's no way they're going to sit on all these prospects. I mean, at least there's no way they should.
No.
Because it's just not, there's no path for most of them, and most of them are not going to work out.
Right.
I mean, let's just face it. This isn't 2015.
Well, and that's why I was kind of joking. You already saw like the prospect perverts when the Crochet rumor came out, already protecting their favorites. Well, you can't trade Trantos, and you can't trade Casey, and you can't trade whatever. It's like, buddy, just trade whatever one they want. Because chances are these guys are going to amount to shit. I hate to break it to you. It's really not that risky. The risk is on the team taking the prospect, not on the team giving it.
I like Shaw. I like Triantos. I like Casey. But again, you just don't have room for all of them. So, yeah.
I mean, for the White Sox, don't you think you'd want Kevin Alcantara, especially if you're going to trade Luis Robert? Then you can go from
possibly.
You could swap the Jaguar for the Panther or whatever order. You still have a big jungle cat loping around the outfield. Maybe your fans wouldn't even notice.
They're going to want young guys too, because they're going to be bad for a while. So I could see them going even for some of the younger guys.
And they specifically want position players. That's been He's been telling people that they need, their system has no impact position players. And
yeah, and I listen. One of the things I was going to say is that I know a lot of people are worried that the Sox are going to fleece us, but have you seen some of Getz's trades? I don't think that's really a danger. Although Jed might be like, hold my beer, but I don't think. I'm not too worried about Getz fleecing us, to be honest with you. No. That Dodgers trade he made wasn't very uninspiring.
No, it was bad. And then especially how well all the guys the Dodgers got in that trade played. It's like you may have undervalued them. Like, hey, Michael Kopech actually looks good now. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And then I know it was a pass through, but Edman is part of that trade. And that's the one I don't understand. I know if the Dodgers after a while they get punch drunk with their own money. Who were they bidding against for Tommy Edman that they had to give him 5 years?
They don't care. They got money, man.
Tommy's like, did they say 5 for me? Really? Is this my? I'm just going to sign this. This is my contract? Really? All right, I'm going to sign. Fuck it. Sucks to be them. Yeah, I mean he's Nico Hoerner's old teammate. You heard the Cardinals are trying to trade Nolan Arenado. And Nolan
Yes.
is willing to move to first base, which I found hilarious. So it's like, Nolan,
Makes no sense.
why is the one reason teams would want you? Because you're not as great as you used to be at third, but you're still a really damn good third baseman.
Yeah. Nolan, what's your greatest value? I'm a great third baseman. All right. Well, how would you like to move to first?
But it's funny because he's offering it. I'll go to first. Like, no, you won't. You won't go to first. Whoever our third baseman is moving to first because I guarantee you he's not as good as you. So knock it off. And then the guy who is now the best defensive third baseman, Matt Chapman, is told the Giants that it says they're interested in signing Hassan Kim to be their shortstop, but Hassan is not going to be healthy to start the season because he's had his surgery. And Chapman's like, I'll just play shortstop till he's ready.
Yikes. Yeah.
And I had the feeling they're like, you know what? We could probably find somebody else to do that. But thank you, Matt. We really appreciate it. Why don't you just go win another Gold Glove at third, and we'll handle shortstop on our own. But it's a nice thought.
Yeah.
You think Isaac Paredes is volunteering to play shortstop if they have to move Dansby to second?
I hope he bounces back. See, I was kind of like a closet Rays fan. I used to watch a little bit of them, and I was always really a fan of his the last couple of years. So I just hope he has a bounce back. I mean, I realize that that Park suited him a lot better than Wrigley does. But it
was the wind.
Yeah, hopefully.
Jed told us it was the wind. That was the only problem. The wind always blew in, especially when Isaac was batting. He did hit he had one extra base hit at Wrigley Field. It was a home run into the basket.
I remember that.
And I found it. Sad. I immediately found it on Baseball Savant. And so when I wrote that, I had the video to go with it. Like, here it is. Because I couldn't believe it. I looked up I'm like, I know he struggled at home. What was the slugging? And I swear to God, I stared at it on the computer. Like, this cannot be right. He slugged 140 at Wrigley Field last year.
Oh my gosh.
Couldn't have been 70 games. There's a lot of games. And then I looked.
He might get traded.
No doubles, no triples, one home run. I'm like, oh, Jesus. Yeah, he could get traded. Absolutely.
Yeah, I still believe he's a good player, so we'll see.
Yeah, I do too. And I think he was almost so bad, the Jets is going to have to be like, we're just going to have to run him. We got to give him another shot because otherwise it's like, Jesus, that was the worst trade ever. The trade that hurt both teams. Morrell went there and didn't play well, and he came here and he was bad. The one thing I need to find, I'll put that on the newsletter, is in 3 years with the Cubs, how long was Nick around? He hit a triple. He had one triple his entire time with the Cubs. Our speedy little slash-hitting second baseman had one triple. Like, oh, Jesus. What a disaster.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Every White Sox fan told you, too.
Like, they were so happy. They hated him before we got to hate him.
Yeah.
And he was actually good for them for a year, for half a year. He had 340 as a rookie. And he was everything he was advertised to be. And then realized now he can't sustain that. He tried to blame it on the White Sox, and he agreed. He bulked up so he could have more power. A 5'2" guy bulking up.
Try to hit a homer.
Yep. He had 2 of those for the Cubs in the same season. They were great. And then that led to all of his muscle problems because he bulked up. Kind of like Justin Tucker with the Ravens. The same problem.
Oh, yeah.
The Tucker thing is hilarious to me because the way you look at him, and it still looks like he was 140 pounds, but apparently he changed his workouts in the offseason because when they changed the kickoff rule, he went on YouTube and he watched the old XFL it was the XFL used this crazy kickoff rule 2 years ago, right? And he realized the kickers had to make a bunch of tackles. So so in his mind he bulked up so he could handle and he hasn't been able to make a kick. And he hasn't had to make a tackle because nobody returns the kicks except for the Bears. DeAndre Carter brings them all out so he can run to the 18 and fall down. But athletes are just the best. All right. Well, we will we'll let Thomas Brown coach some football, and we'll let Jed go crazy at the winter meetings.
Yeah.
We'll have all kinds of stuff to talk about. And the next time we talk, the Cubs I'm sure will be loaded, and we'll be just can't wait. We just want to fast forward to Japan in late March when the World Championship season starts. It's going to be great.
Exciting.
All right. Well, thanks.
Many of us have herpes.
No, I thought it generally sucked. I didn't think it was a specific suck. I thought it was like an all-encompassing type of suck. So, we're going to try and rectify that. But for right now, I'm going to be pretty pissed about it.
It's fitting. It's got to be done with one of the best games of all time. Just unbelievable. I mean, got to congratulate the Dolan family.
Sean, my podcast co-host Andy, you were his favorite player growing up.
Oh, thank you so much. Awesome.